off the train and the Twitch notification. It looks like just got to check over all the notifications again because I changed the infrastructure. And of course we're testing this in production because I don't have an entire other copy of my social media presence. I do have some test accounts, but you know, it's like hard to test like everything at the same time. But yeah, I think that means we're live on YouTube and Twitch. It looks like a notification went out on Twitter. Let's see if a notification went out on Mastodon. Oh, it did. I think all this stuff is working. Well, welcome back to the stream if anybody's here early or surfing through the archives. Oh, and Tuco's up on the desk already. I should just switch right to the Tuco cam. So there's a lot we could work on. I want to improve the Tuco cam. Like, that's been a project that I feel like it's gotten to the point where it works pretty well, but there's a lot of, like, it doesn't work great. It could definitely stand to have some polish applied. So I've been neglecting that partly just because there's so many things I could work on, and it's been a bit of a choice paralysis problem. But we've been doing a couple things, or we've at least been planning to do a couple things recently. Try to get back into this because we haven't really been working on this particular project as much lately. But I thought I'd do something kind of simple in this stream. It was something we kind of talked about and planned a little bit at the end of the last stream, but didn't really get into. And I just want to do some CAD, probably Fusion360, design some pulley parts to try to make the leash thing up there. There's like a counterweight, which I can show if anybody like has questions about it. I feel like I've talked about this a bunch. I kind of just want to get into the work, but there's a pulley and counterweight system, which you might hear it making noise, and that's partly because it's just really ad hoc and not designed well, and there are parts that are scraping against each other. And there's also no mechanical advantage in the pulley right now, so the counterweight has to move much further than I'd rather like it to move. So I think I'd like to at least try to get like a 2-to-1 reduction in the pulley system for that purpose. Hey Dean, nice to see you. Make sure I've got all the chat channels up. Maybe I'll try to get a better view of Tuco here, because that's really what this camera's for. One of the features I'm really looking forward to is having control for the camera relative to the camera's coordinate system. Right now, the controls are all relative to the room, so I've got to do this mental coordinate system transformation every time I fly this thing around, and it's kind of frustrating. It also doesn't keep track of its own height, so it'll drift sometimes, especially in close quarters. Right now, it's actually got a bit of a tension anomaly it's trying to deal with. And it'll stabilize in a sec, but it doesn't stabilize as fast as I'd like it to. Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, I've been busy with a couple of things. Actually today, the stream took longer to get going than I really wanted to because I had yet another random like Windows related problem. I mean, I don't want to blame Windows because I've got an inkling that this was caused by some change that they made in the webcam device framework, but it could have easily just been a driver problem. Like, I don't know, they'd like changed their signature enforcement settings or something and the original driver no longer worked. Anyway, the webcam that you're watching right here just stopped working completely, and I had to unload and reload drivers and change the settings until it worked again. I think the deal is I'm no longer actually using H.264 over USB, now it's using MJPEG over USB, so that camera might be very slightly choppier, but this was as good as I could do without probably switching to a camera that supports Windows 10 better or just totally changing the setup. Hey Fred, nice to see you too. Let's make sure I've got those chat channels up. Oh gosh. I shouldn't be reaching over there and trying to use the touchscreen when I could be using the KVM switch. I can use the KVM switch and pet the cat at the same time. So yeah, I mentioned kind of decentralized alternatives to big services. Like I've been both really a heavy user of services like YouTube and Twitch, or well, Twitch to some extent, but I meant to say Twitter. So like YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Vimeo, like I use services like that a lot, but I'm also like, especially services like YouTube and Twitch, I've just been really frustrated with like how it seems like increasingly my own values are at conflict with the values of the company. And, you know, it's nice to get the free hosting and a little bit of additional discoverability or whatever, but ultimately, you know, like I don't need Google to host my videos. I actually have pretty fast internet here, and that combined with actually having maybe a viable software alternative. Anyway, I've been excited about this open source project called PeerTube, and it plays really nicely with another open source project you might have heard of called Mastodon, which is more of a decentralized Twitter alternative. And these are both based on what's now like a web standard protocol, ActivityPub, which is really just like a mailbox protocol that servers can use to exchange messages, kind of like email but for tweets. And much like email, you have like servers that are administered by some entity that is maybe larger than an individual, but smaller than all of the internet. So it's kind of more like email or news groups or web servers used to be before like Google and Amazon and, you know, Microsoft kind of ate everything. So yeah, it's like nice to finally see a bit of a potentially viable revival of the earlier internet trend of having multiple servers that all work well together. And so yeah, I've been experimenting with that lately, and been actually finding it pretty good. I've been like just tracking down bugs and just trying to make sure it's a smooth experience. And yesterday, actually, I came across what was actually a huge deal. So I was noticing that, you know, so there's a server that sends video files to clients. The video files are large. The client requests either a whole file or some chunk of a file, but the server then has an opportunity to just send it out at whatever rate it locally has available. So the server is connected to a gigabit LAN segment, which is then connected to a gigabit fiber. And so like the connection is pretty fast up until some point at which it hits a major restriction, like cell network or cable modem or something, or just congestion on the internet somewhere, like some transcontinental fiber. And then at that point, you start seeing packets get queued, eventually dropped, and then you end up not necessarily finding out about that packet loss until this round trip or multiple round trips have elapsed. And that was all due to the combination of the really asymmetric bandwidth, the large files, and just kind of a naive queuing mechanism that was actually the default in Debian Stable, which is the OS I installed on here. And so yeah, I got to learn about TCP and new queuing algorithms and this thing called FQCODL, C-O-D-E-L, which is an acronym for controlled delay. It's actually pretty cool. It basically does exactly what you'd want for a situation like this, which is tries to fairly rigorously but passively figure out at what rate the server should be sending packets to not overwhelm all the intermediate connections, and then does that per TCP connection. So it's pretty much exactly what I want in this case. So I went as far as like sending a pull request to the PeerTube folks saying like, this needs to be in the production guide. This is actually really important because, like, you know, like some distros might already have this set. Like it became a popular option for some distros. Like I think Ubuntu might set this by default. But like, you know, I asked for recommended distro when I was setting up PeerTube, and they were like, oh yeah, install Debian Stable. And I installed Debian Stable, and this is the default, and it turns out to be horrible for video servers. So it seemed like the kind of thing that needed to be in the installation guide. So that seems to be a big improvement. And yeah, so there's a couple of different kinds of rate limiting at play now. By virtue of this new queuing module, the server will end up rate limiting itself to whatever it thinks the TCP pipe can actually take all the way from server to client, which is good. I've also got a rate limit in Nginx. I was experimenting with having that rate limit be much higher, just in case the... so by default, the configuration is 800 kilobytes per second per connection, which is enough, assuming the client has multiple connections, assuming that you're not trying to like buffer ahead video after a stall or something. I was a little worried that it might have been a problem when you're rebuffering video and when you're using a client that doesn't necessarily support multiple connections. So I experimented with increasing it, but I don't think that's actually necessary. And when I had it increased, then other clients, like this was happening with Firefox on my laptop here, which is limited by its USB 2 Ethernet adapter. And that was just downloading fast enough that Firefox was like hitting kind of a CPU spike. So the limit on the server was actually beneficial to kind of smooth out the client CPU load in some cases. Also, you know, anybody who's just kind of like leeching files off the server with wget is going to hit the limit for single connections, and it's kind of beneficial to set that limit no larger than it needs to be, just so that you don't encourage people to download directly from the server when they could be downloading with a torrent. That was something else I did, as I submitted a bug report on YouTube DL, because if anybody knows, YouTube DL is this open source program that can download from not just YouTube, but all sorts of video sharing sites. And it's, you know, like I use it a lot to make backups of my own stuff, you know, of channels that like I would need to like refer to, and, you know, it'd be really sad if they were gone, you know, just like make personal backups of stuff. It's a really useful tool. But, you know, it's also going to, because it just looks for an HTTP video link, it's going to hit this per connection limit. And so it would be beneficial for everyone if YouTube DL knew how to use torrents, but that bug got closed as out of scope. Yeah, apparently they're not, I mean, there might be some general purpose multiple connection support that's coming in the future that ends up benefiting this, but they're not interested in the torrent support, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I'm sure they've got their reasons. Yeah. Oh, how is everybody's Tuesday, if it is Tuesday? There's kind of a Tuesday evening thing happening here. Geez, there's always, every time I look at the YouTube comments, it seems like there's someone saying that I don't look at the YouTube comments. But yeah, no, I mean, George was asking what I have planned for today. I think I might have answered that, but if you wanted a refresher for anybody who's just coming in, yeah, I was going to kind of talk about PeerTube and kind of show off what I've got going so far there a little bit, but mostly I was going to try to do some CAD and work on this pulley for the leash mount for TucoFlyer. Maybe I can show that with the camera really quick here. So yeah, this is TucoFlyer. That is what you're watching the CAD on. And it has 4 of these ropes that actually hold it up, and then it has this collection of wires here. It looks a little messy. It actually seems to work all right. I can maybe demonstrate moving it around at some point, but it kind of forms these collapsible sections where just like a few feet at a time of the wire kind of bunches up, and there's like a nylon paracord, or not paracord, the ropes that actually hold it up, hold the TucoFlyer up, are paracord. There's like a nylon fishing line, like a monofilament, that goes through all of those little slides that the leash is attached to. Yeah, so this is what we've got. This is definitely a job for manual focus. Hello. Hello, Roger. Nice to see folks showing up, and nice to see the familiar faces. So we've got, I used to, like, this actually used to look nicer because I had the wires in this kind of exterior nylon braid. I ended up removing that to save weight. Like, I really just wanted the leash to be as light as possible so that it didn't really pull the flyer itself, because it kind of acts as a bit of a drag on the flyer, kind of pulling the entire robot back toward the leash anchor point. And the lighter the leash is, the less it does that. So I was trying to do that. Yeah, so this is definitely optimized for lightness. So there are 2 wires there. One of them is a coax cable for the video. The other one is a slim Ethernet cable. It's like this monoprice 28 gauge Cat6, I think, and that's used for data and power. I'm using 2 of the pairs for data and 2 of the pairs for power. And it's like 24 volts. It's like almost PoE. It's like diet PoE or PoE light or something. Hello to Sarlash and goodbye to PyPony. Nice to see everyone. So it's a little hard to see what's going on here with the monofilament because it's so clear. Can I zoom in anymore? Kind of. All right, so that's the very last. What am I calling these? Leash anchors, maybe. They're like little sandwichy bits, leash sandwiches. I don't know, clampos, things that attach the leash to the monofilament. And so they're actually designed using really just a modified version of the 3D model that clamps the leash inside the robot. So it's got a, what is it called? It's got a NinjaFlex sleeve that you thread the cable through. And then that NinjaFlex sleeve gets clamped in between 2 pieces of PLA by a couple of M3 bolts. And so there's one on the very end. The monofilament is knotted at that one. So the monofilament always has some tension on it on account of the counterweight that we'll get to. So the monofilament always has some tension. That tension ends up pulling on that knot, and then it's balanced against the actual wire, which is then pulled by the robot. So I am putting some tension on the wire itself, which is not necessarily perfect, but these tensions are all pretty low, so I'm not really that worried about it. And some of that's necessary just to keep the wire out of the way. If I had this thing dialed in a little bit better, I might be able to attach the monofilament at that last clamp and then attach the monofilament again at the robot, just barely at the right place to relieve the tension on the wire, but the tension in the whole system is low enough. I wasn't really concerned about that. So I just have a bit of a strain relief with some tape wrapped around the wire just to keep it from kinking too badly at that specific spot. But then you can see that the first, I guess there are 4 of them there, 4 of those little leash clamps are all just bunched up against each other because there's enough wire that the wire just wants to hang there. But if I had extended the robot further away from the anchor point, then we'd be pulling on that whole assembly. The wire upstream of that would end up pulling on some of the clamps and kind of unfolding that bunch of wire. And then each kind of rung of that bunch would end up sort of sliding along the monofilament. It's like curtains. It's like a curtain rod. It's basically a fancy curtain rod for coax cables. So, hey Jenny. So yeah. And then upstream you can see some of them that are unfolded, not necessarily completely, but, you know, partially. And then at the very top, can we get up there? This is an awkward angle. I should get some B-roll of this from a different angle that isn't at this desk, but from where I'm sitting, this is the view I can give you. And this is the piece we're going to be designing, this new thing at the top. So right now the issue is that monofilament just kind of scrapes along the edge of that purple kind of horseshoe-shaped piece, and that's what's making the bad noise. It just doesn't work very well, it doesn't sound good, it's irritating, it's terrible in pretty much every way. And then the monofilament and the leash wires come down the other direction. And then there's the actual counterweight, which is a very lightly filled sandbag attached to the monofilament. So maybe I can illustrate this by moving the robot around a little bit. Alright, I've got to the controller always goes to sleep. I've got to remember to turn on the controller. So you might kind of notice how the the sort of rattly noise that some of you, I don't know, I find it irritating. I don't know if anybody else is annoyed by it, but it's definitely correlated with the motion of that sandbag up and down. Let's see if I can get a different view. Yeah, there are also some twists in the cable. That's definitely not good, but I don't think it's that bad either. It doesn't seem to be causing any problems yet, but I'm keeping my eye on it for sure. And And then right now the sandbag is actually too low to the ground, like it's hitting stuff. And that's part of why I want some mechanical advantage in the pulley system, so that I can have the sandbag move less and weigh more. So yeah, maybe that's a bit of an illustration. I'm gonna crash the robot into the server. There's a server on the table because the rack has not arrived yet. It was scheduled to arrive today, but yeah. Gonna be a second rack here. I've got the big rack. Maybe I can give you a quick tour while we're taking things from the video, or from the robot's point of view, and I can keep the DSLR recording the leash up there. The cat, of course. Let's come back to the cat for a moment. Oh yeah, good question. Sarah Lash is wondering if I'm going to rig this to follow Tuco around. Oh jeez, I almost spilled my tea here. Yeah, no, that's a great question. It already pans and tilts the camera automatically, but I am planning on having it actually move to follow Tuco around also. There's a couple of prerequisites to that. The robot needs to have a better idea of coordinate systems and where it's pointed and how high it is off the ground. It needs to be able to run the obstacle avoidance sensors. So I've got some work to do on the software before that's really ready, but that's part of the goal of the project, is to have it be able to automatically follow Tuco around the shop. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, let's see if we can get a little further away here. So here's the desk where I've been filming. And you can see some messy reorganization in progress over there. Some more projects. Oh gosh, the camera's a little unstable. I got a little carried away with the controls and I just started sending it up and up and up and it got a little unstable. Yeah, it's a little bit manual still. There's no automatic height control. Anyway, so I've got some projects in progress. That desk at the back, I've talked about that briefly on a stream, but it's this like audio feedback thing that I was experimenting with. I'm unsure whether that's something I should put away or something that I need to do more work on, but anyway, this thing at the front is the PeerTube server. Sorry. It gets a little unstable still when the camera's pointed like so far directly down. I need to work on that. But yeah, this is all stuff that's going in the rack when the rack arrives. That's a UPS on the left, new network switch, and then that's a 4U box on the right. The motherboard in there is the motherboard that used to be in my video editing machine, which I recently upgraded. And then I put a bunch of discs that I had been using for like backups and archives and stuff, because I have largely switched to doing those kinds of backups to like off-site cloud backups now that I have faster internet. So before I had fast internet, I was doing a lot more backups to piles of hard disks, and so I used some of those extra hard disks to make a disk array for a PeerTube server. The reason one is sitting on top right now, the system disk is a RAID 1 that I plan on being a RAID 1 of 2 SSDs. I did not have the second SSD when I got the system set up, so that's kind of a dummy disk that I'm using as a mirror for that SSD, and so I'm going to take the system down for maintenance once the transcode queue is empty, and then do some disk stuff. I also don't have most of the disks actually hooked up because I was missing some cables, so get the rest of the disks hooked up and actually put the second SSD on the SSD and not on the spinning disk, that kind of thing. Yeah, so I was gonna, Sarlash was asking about PeerTube. Yeah, I was gonna explain some more about PeerTube. So yeah, that's the work in progress stuff that's going in a different rack. And then I've already had to have an equipment rack in here just for the stuff that I use for the live streams and the editing. So that's what's in here. Some of this stuff can move to the smaller rack because there's a NAS, like a storage server, and some stuff like that in here that can move to the other rack. Have less stuff actually next to the streaming. Oh yeah, Cody's asking what I use for the cloud backups. I've been using B2 because it's cheap and fast, and it seems to work pretty well. It's like the only thing that I've found that would be cost effective for storing just huge piles of raw video offsite like I do. Because I have some disk arrays here, and they have some redundancy, but it's nice to not like have, you know, everything in one spot. It's nice to have a little bit of stuff elsewhere if you can. But it's like renting a storage unit. It's still not cheap, but it would be way more expensive if I was putting all this in like S3 or something. And yeah, like I've already got so much personal stuff in B2 that I'm not especially as much worried about the additional cost of paying for backups for the PeerTube server. Because yeah, even just like, you know, if I have the whole disk array that I set up right now full, that's like a fraction, not a tiny fraction, but still like a fraction of what I've already got backed up on B2. Hey, Took. Oh, this cat is so good. I really like when it seems like he and I are doing a good job at communicating, which happens a lot. Let's see, I think we can take the camera back over here and I can just talk about PeerTube a little bit, and then we can do some CAD. Oh, sorry, it's still kind of shaky. The non-shakiness project is a work in progress. Oh yeah, Roger's asking if the UPS has a network card slot. It does. I don't know that I want to pay for the network card because the card costs a significant fraction of what the UPS costs. So you know, like I might just have like it's got a serial port and a USB port, so I could probably just put a Raspberry Pi on that, or just have a machine that I've already got on the network run APC UPSD or something. But yeah, no, data from the UPS is certainly useful. I just don't necessarily want to pay for their monitoring solution because I think it's kind of overpriced. Oh, interesting. You can get them cheaper. I'll have to look into that. Cool. Yeah, okay. I did not realize you could get good offers on this card, so I'll have to look into that then, because that might actually be useful. Who's laughing at Fat32 and why? I don't even understand the context here. I don't even know where that would have come up. I'm so confused. Or why you would be laughing at it. It's like the world's most supported file format. You can, like, sure, it's got some silly limitations, but like you can put a Fat32 disk in pretty much anything and it'll be able to read files off of it. Oh, the message from the camera. Oh, yeah. I don't know if that's just the Fat32 thing, or because even if it wasn't 4 gig, this camera also splits at 30 minutes. So yeah, the camera is not good at files. This camera is not a great camera at files. So yeah, no, I'm with you. We could make fun of the camera's file system for sure. But Fat32 in general is not something I really have a problem with. Pony is asking if the camera I'm moving from the joystick is through the cables. Yeah, basically. We've been working on the software for this a lot on the stream, but like basically how that works is when I when I'm, use the joystick. This is a wireless Xbox 360 joystick, so it's plugged in over USB to the computer that's running the robots. It wouldn't have to work like this. There's actually, you can connect to it over WebSockets, and there's like a web client also. But this happens to be directly connected to the same computer that the robot is connected to. That wire is actually Ethernet and power, so that PC that's running all of this, it's actually got a separate network adapter that's connected to a separate switch with a separate little network that's just robots. And so it's sending UDP packets to an IP address, and that robot up there is responding. And those UDP packets actually turn into serial commands that go out to the gimbal. And so that software that's running on the computer that controls the whole show, the bot controller, that's actually generating packets in the protocol that this particular gimbal understands in order to control the camera. So yeah, that's pretty much it, but yeah, great question. Oh geez, so I'm gonna have to put this up as like an FAQ or something, because every time we complain about the camera, someone talks about improving the firmware on the camera, but there is actually an improvement firmware for this camera. There's Magic Lantern. I think it's had other names in the past, like CHDK maybe. And I used that for a while, and it has some nice improvements. It is supported on my camera, but I just stopped using it after too much data loss, and I just don't want to play that game with what's basically my main production camera. So it's a nice idea, but like for this particular device, I need something that's reliable. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually interested in upgrading this camera. Yeah, I want to get a camera that does native, at least 4K 60, maybe 4K 120. Maybe like a real video camera instead of a DSLR. But yeah, I've been looking into the options, but I haven't actually decided what to get or decided to actually commit the money to it yet, so. Still filming with a DSLR. Going to strap an iPhone to it? You mean the DSLR? I don't know that that would be an improvement. I like the lens on this camera. I've got another camera that has a decent lens. It's a mirrorless Samsung, and I still use that to record B-roll. Like, it's a great camera for just video clips. I don't use it for stuff like this because it doesn't have HDMI out that's worth anything. Like, the HDMI out is disabled when you're actually recording, I think. Some limitation like that. It doesn't have an external audio input, which is really killer for me because I need external audio for synchronization. Strap an iPhone to the gimbal? No. Yeah, no, I think you're misunderstanding. I don't have any intention of doing 4K on the gimbal, not anytime soon. Like, I want 4K for like the main camera that I'm recording edited videos with. The CAD camera, I'm pretty happy with 1080p 30 right now, like over a wired connection. And I like just built this thing. I'm not just gonna redesign it to put a slightly nicer camera on it. No, what are you talking about? Go away. Yeah, no, the CAD cam is great. Now I'm talking about upgrading like my main filming camera, the one that you're seeing right here. So, anyway, let's talk about PeerTube a little bit. I've been excited about having something that is maybe a viable alternative for self-hosting videos. And yeah, so like the name is maybe the first thing to talk about. Oh great, let's switch to this channel. So, like the peer in PeerTube. Wow, look at all that power usage. I think the decrease actually might be the machine I'm running CAD on going to sleep because I left it alone for a bit. But yeah, I was starting up the streaming, the computer vision, and the CAD. So a lot of GPUs and CPUs firing up. And this demo machine happens to still be transcoding video. Gosh, yeah, I'm working some of these computers hard right now. So, this is the PeerTube server. It's been just at 100% CPU for a long time now, transcoding videos. And then this demo machine has been at 50% CPU because I have a 2 virtual CPU VM that's been working flat out transcoding videos. And that's just been for a demo environment. I want to have like a self-contained PeerTube that I can use for like testing experimental code that's not production. But I also want it to have big video files on it, so I just threw some big videos in there. I know I could just like copy the database and transcoded files selectively from the other server, but that was more annoying than just throwing some fresh files in there. Yeah, and if you haven't seen this, this is the front end here is this open source app called Grafana, which I like quite a lot. It's just a nice like UI for doing queries and graphs against time series data. And then the database here is InfluxDB. Let's zoom in to just recent here. Oh gosh, yeah, so there's a lot going on right now. Yeah, I mean, so this is showing the power. This is showing latency to internal and external web hosts. These are latency of HTTPS head, which seemed to be the most useful metric that I had. It's like, seemed more real than a ping, I guess. Yeah, and then this is the actual bandwidth on the various router interfaces, CPU usage. And then we've got more specific stuff for the actual PeerTube server. But yeah, the server has a decent amount of bandwidth available. You can see it bursting up to 1 gigabit here. I think this was a backup. Yeah, this is great. I think this was a highly parallelized backup. I've actually reduced the parallelism of the backups because I don't actually need it to suck up the entire gigabit fiber. But it's nice to know that it can. But yeah, so PeerTube. It's self-hosting for video. Basically, the peer in the name means that in addition to streaming the videos directly from the server, you can actually participate in a peer-to-peer network such that when you're viewing the video in your browser is actually connected to a WebTorrent server, which is also part of PeerTube. And it's downloading the blocks that it needs to view the video, but then it's also providing those blocks to other clients. The peer-to-peer stuff is optional. Like, you can stream the video directly over HTTP, which is necessary on mobile devices usually. But the peer-to-peer stuff, it's kind of a way of preventing the server from getting extremely overloaded if certain videos get extremely popular. It doesn't necessarily help with the long tail problem of just being able to serve lots of content fast. So you still kind of need a fast connection to make PeerTube work. So, man, sorry, I think I need to like refresh my tea. I'm realizing my voice just keeps getting scratchier and scratchier as this goes on, and that's not getting better. Oh yeah, sorry, Lash is wondering if I'm going to put a GPU in there to accelerate the encoding. Actually, I already did. Yeah, there's an open issue to add GPU transcoding support, and I might tackle that myself once I've got the development environment set up. But yeah, right now the software does not support the right FFmpeg options to do transcoding on the GPU, but I did get that set up. Like, I've tested GPU transcoding on that machine, and I know that works. So yeah, I plan to do that. It's got a pretty good CPU. It's got 4-core i7 in there right now, which seems to be just running a boatload of FFmpeg threads, no problem, without affecting web latency, so I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, the network connection is great. I'm just like really lucky to have fiber here. I didn't know that fiber was available. I was on Comcast for a while, and then I hit some data limit that I didn't even know existed in Comcast. And then they switched me over to something where they were man-in-the-middling my connection, such that every time I loaded a web page over HTTP, it would add some JavaScript to give me a pop-up to say that I've used too much data and they're slowing down my connection. And they allowed me to pay some money to have a larger bandwidth cap. And then even after paying for the larger bandwidth cap, they had no ability to turn off that man-in-the-middle thing that they had turned on. So that was the last straw for me, and I started looking around for other options. And then, super lucky, it turns out that the city I'm in, most of it is wired for high-speed fiber through a company that actually is pretty awesome. And so Yeah, I've got gigabit fiber to my shop now. It was like kind of expensive to get it installed, but the monthly fee is actually not any more than Comcast, so I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm gonna experiment with using it to provide maybe a little community space for folks to have electronics videos that isn't YouTube. And yeah, so like that's kind of what I'm getting at is PeerTube is a way of creating a new community space, I think. So it could be a lot of things. Like it could be really low effort. It could just be like a popularity contest. It could be just aggregating all the videos. It could be broken all the time. It could be full of spam. It could be, you know, full of really terrible things. But it's also an opportunity to make something that you like and that your friends want to hang out in. And that's kind of what I've been seeing with Mastodon is, you know, Mastodon isn't necessarily better than Twitter, but it's an opportunity to have your own thing with your friends that isn't Twitter and isn't controlled by big corporate interests and is controlled by maybe someone who you have some say in. And that's been really nice. So I think PeerTube has a lot of potential in bringing that to the video world. And you're already seeing a lot of the same people who run Mastodon instances get interested in running PeerTube. There's a lot of PeerTube servers out there. Let's see. I think there's actually, yeah, there's this site which I already have in my history. I lied about getting T. I still need to do that, but there's like a master list of instances. This list is like completely unmoderated. Anyone can just add instances here, but it's a way of kind of gauging the popularity of the software that runs on the system. And then there are some instances which just connect themselves to anybody who appears in this list. And so they're kind of like catch-all instances that just have everything on it. But then there are some instances that are more selective, and there isn't really a lot in the way of tools for choosing what content ends up on your instance. And what I wanted to do is kind of make something that's a little bit more focused on, like, not exclusively electronics, you know, and I'm not gonna like say, oh, you can't post pictures of your cat, or you can't post pictures of your like cupcakes or whatever, or videos, you know, like, because obviously people are multifaceted, and it's like interesting to know what else is going on with somebody, and that's perfectly normal. But like, I think I'm also looking for ways to have a community that is both like centered around a particular interest and maybe explicitly tries to avoid some of what I see as kind of problems that I keep getting frustrated with in like the YouTube electronics community. So like, it would be really cool to specifically try to provide a good space for people that is like explicitly like anti-sexism and anti-harassment, and explicitly like welcoming to people's hobbies related to different kinds of like making and creativity, and maybe with a bit of a focus on electronics, since the name Diode Zone, but like, you know, that cluster of things. And I'm certainly a big fan of the overlap between electronics and other interests and other things that you might have going on in your life. So yeah, like that's kind of what I have in mind, is something that's like maybe just a nicer place to hang out and share electronics videos and other stuff. And it could also function as just like a backup archive of all my videos, and like other people who want like a backup for all their videos. I think one of the rules is that the videos would probably have to be Creative Commons. If you use YouTube music library stuff, then that might not actually be legal to host on other sites, so that might be something to watch out for. And I'll have like long rules written up for this kind of thing, but yeah, like if you have content that like you legally have the right to post elsewhere, and that you want to post elsewhere and you want to try this out, then after the server stabilizes a little bit, because I still consider this very experimental, because considering it's like on a table in the middle of the room, not even plugged into a UPS or on a rack. Once it stabilizes a little bit, I'd love to give upload accounts to anybody who wants to try this out, who wants to abide by the rules. So yeah, I think it's interesting. There's some good friendly instances here. A lot of French instances, because PeerTube is based in like it's backed by Framasoft, which is a nonprofit based in France. Yeah, some cool instances. Oh yeah, this one seemed friendly. And so if you go to an instance, you see, like by default, you'll see like whatever they have configured. I think this is trending across whatever's on this server and stuff that they've federated with. Or you can just see stuff that is on this server itself. So like if you went to recently added, for example, you'd see, oh, some of these are mine. So you'd see stuff on other instances. So like scanlime at diode zone is me. This is a different instance. PeerTube.social is like a big general purpose instance that's run by one of the PeerTube contributors. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. And these are instances that this server admin has chosen to allow appear on this server's listing, but the videos aren't hosted here. Some of them are hosted here, but like if you click this, scanlime at diode zone, 0 views were first. Then this is actually playing off of my server, but it's hosted in this website. I just looked at the bar here and it was going at 70 kilobytes. I'm not really sure why, but it seems to be playing fine. Is this one of the old streams that was in 720p? No. It just hadn't quite loaded the 1080 yet. It still seems like there's some smoothness to be had in the player, especially around starting streams, around starting really long streams, around switching resolutions. But it's just way better since they made that TCP queuing change. Just like worlds different. So yeah, this is an old stream. Another current deficiency here is that there's no metadata. Excuse me, there's no metadata on PeerTube for the date when something was first published. So archival content like this is really confusing because it all just shows when it was uploaded, not when it was first published. So I'm gonna have like a temporary fix for that goes through, and like I need to write like a metadata management script for all my stuff that's on YouTube and elsewhere. And that script, I'm just gonna have to just like add something to the description with the original date. I would add it to the title to make it a little more obvious, but it seems like people are starting to write tools that assume that titles on YouTube videos and Mastodon videos are identical. So maybe I don't want to do that. Something to think about. Then I already filed a bug report about adding more metadata for date stamps, and maybe I'll have a chance to contribute to some code to that also. But yeah, I mean, you might have noticed it's a project I'm excited about. I'm excited about running it, contributing to it, hosting it for other people. So yeah, and this is what I got so far. So I'm gonna refresh my tea and leave you with the TucoCam for a sec. But yeah, if you want to check it out, feel free to go to diode.zone and just if you want to let me know, do the videos load? Do you have problems? What kind of internet connection are you on? Like, that would be great, because I'm just trying to get some data, and I don't want to write like a spyware script to gather it. Some of it, I could write some scripts to gather it from just like standard server log stuff that already happens to be on the server. But so far, I don't actually have a lot of data on that, and the best data actually comes from the client. I don't necessarily want to add instrumentation without actually having a way for that to be consenty. Oh yeah, Fred's asking if I need more discs. Oh yeah, actually like half the discs in that box are discs that you sent me, so thank you for that. Yeah, no, I've actually got the chassis a bit full right now, but I could install another drive cage in that, yeah, I might be able to fit a few more discs in that box potentially. So yeah, I'll keep you posted. It's easy to add more discs though. I'm using ZFS. This is my first time using ZFS, and I'm definitely a fan, so I'll keep you posted on that too. Yeah, there's already 8 spinning discs and 2 SSDs in it right now. Or at least there will be when I've got all the cables plugged in. Yeah, the internet connection here, that's like one of the things that I would miss the most if I end up moving. It's like I'd have to either find somewhere else with fiber or find like a data center to put some stuff in, because I've kind of gotten used to having high bandwidth for a couple of things at least. Like, I mean, the PeerTube server, I'm sure I'm going to get attached to that. I've also been used to running my own like broadcast transcoding, basically, so I can send a video stream to a local Nginx server here, which then transcodes it and forwards it to both Twitch and YouTube. And I could use Restream. Like, Restream might be cheaper than like buying my own infrastructure to do that, but if I'm running a PeerTube server, I could do it on that infrastructure probably. So Roger's wondering if I plan on automating ZFS scrubs. I already have them automated, actually. I think it was in the default Debian packages. Yeah, Debian already has it set up to do monthly scrubs. I might up that to weekly, but yeah. So I've got it set up with mirrored pairs of 4 terabyte disks right now. And right now there's one mirrored pair. I'm going to add 3 more mirrored pairs. And that's what I've got in the chassis right now. Yeah, none of this hardware is like especially high grade or anything. Like, it's an old Dell desktop motherboard with a couple of additional SATA cards in it. It's just like a bunch of random 4 terabyte drives, but everything's mirrored, everything has offsite backups, so hopefully that's an alright combination. And I at least got a nice UPS for it, so. Oh yeah. Yeah, Mateus was saying that some of the chemistry YouTubers might be interested in this. Yeah, right? I've been hearing that some of them have been getting harassed by YouTube's content police lately. Yeah, and that's frustrating. I'm not a chemist myself, but I certainly enjoy, like, I find some of the chemistry YouTube channels really entertaining. Maybe just like relaxing in that way where like I like watching someone else explain in detail something that I don't really completely understand, and then occasionally like surfing around in Wikipedia when I find something interesting. It's like kind of a like edutainment sort of mindset, you know. I'm sure some of you can relate. Oh yeah, Lars was wondering if I got around to stress testing it. I was wondering if, were you talking about the network connections? Yeah, like, it's actually really hard to do good stress tests here, because I don't really have endpoints that can max out the connection necessarily. Yeah, like, I mean, I would run stuff like the broadband speed test sites and stuff, like speedtest.net. Speedtest.net is not an accurate picture of my network connection speed, it turns out. It will just wildly vary. I'll usually get like 700 megabits down and between like 100 and 400 megabits up on speedtest. And then I'll do some backups, and the backups will just max out the gigabit link in the uplink direction. So I think speedtest just isn't quite up to the task of testing a gigabit link. Like, I think testing gigabit links is kind of specialized. And like the thing that turned out to be the real performance problem wasn't just raw bandwidth, it was the behavior of the Linux kernel when it came to figuring out how to deal with TCP connections that were bottlenecked somewhere else other than here. And so switching queuing algorithms really helped when it came to that, because before I was just getting massive packet loss. Oh, that's great. Yeah, a couple of good reports that things are working. Things are working in 1080p. That's nice. Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been fun getting kind of involved in PeerTube. Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to be useful without being annoying. Like, I've opened some bug reports, but I've been trying to also just like contribute. You know, like, not just like, hey, this thing is broken, but actually like trying to actually engage meaningfully and provide some code even. And I've already had one like really minor pull request merged, so that was nice. Or 2 actually, I've got 2 minor pull requests. Both documentation changes, but changes to the configurations that they suggest. So just like little tweaks to make the server faster. Yeah, one of them was the TCP thing. The other one was Yeah, gzip compression was just not enabled, so turn that on for a few things, and that helps. Not with video streaming, obviously, but just with initial site load speed. Cool, cool. Well, glad to hear things are working. Let's see what that looks like on the network graph. Ooh, yeah, we're getting a little bit of bandwidth here. Last 15 minutes. Got 400 megabits here. Nice. And it's nice that the disk isn't going to be a bottleneck, hopefully, with the RAID one. Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit like I should have just done ZFS everywhere. I have the system disk running on ext4 and ZFS just for the storage array, but I love ZFS snapshots, and I kind of wish I could just use them for the system disk now too. What I ended up doing was doing automated rsyncs from the system disk to a particular ZFS file system, and then including that in the rotating snapshots I do everywhere else. So that seems all right. That's also just something I want to back up differently, because, like, you know, it's like I want different backup strategies for the data storage on PeerTube, for the SQL database, and for the system disk. Because the system disk is going to be a ton of tiny files that'll be really easy to compress that I don't need to back up very frequently. And so, like, I'm using tar LZMA, like xzip, to store that. For SQL, like, you need to do a database dump. You don't want to just store the raw files. Even though I guess those are probably included in the system disk, the way I have it set up right now. But I don't want to send lots of tiny files to B2. I want to send large files, so. Oh yeah, rsnapshot. I think I looked into that a little bit. I might look into it again. Yeah, I just ended up using a literal rsync for the system disk, but I ended up using some other package that was pretty useful for managing the ZFS snapshots. It was like, I think it's literally like a ZFS rolling snapshot Debian package that had some pretty reasonable defaults, and I added a couple of things to that. So it just keeps tons of snapshots. I figure I don't think I need to worry too much about having lots of snapshots in this machine, because most of the storage is append only anyway. So the space taken by an old snapshot of the disk is mostly going to be like old versions of the video prior to transcoding, which I kind of wish PeerTube would save anyway. And then, you know, not that it's useful to have that hanging out in an old snapshot, but, you know, I guess that's the spirit of it. And yeah, like old log files, I guess, which those are tiny compared to everything else. Let's not have the sun in that camera's eyes. It takes a sec to wake up the controller from sleep. Sometimes I want just a wired controller for this also. The wireless controller needs to be woken up. The wireless controller goes to sleep. A wired would just stay awake, of course. Yeah, this is cool. And so if you go to diode zone, it's got a structure which is kind of useful, where it's really easy for one account to have multiple channels. So if you went to the main thing, you could get to my account by clicking one of these. You can see I've got 3 channels here. It would be useful if it showed how many videos were on here, maybe, or like a description, but right now it just shows you the number of subscribers, and I don't think they've implemented subscribing to channels yet, so these are all 0. But yeah, there's the main series. These are also in kind of a weird order right now, because they're the order I uploaded them in. That's also something that I might contribute a patch, like something that you can use to reorder these by original publication date once we have that metadata, or by, you know, playlists are also not implemented. There's obviously a need for that, and there's a bug open with a discussion, but yeah, so like it's obviously like alpha level software, but it's already useful enough and usable enough that I'm excited about it. So here's all the main videos. Like, it starts up pretty quickly here. I mean, that's not really that surprising considering I'm on a really fast connection to the server, but Yeah, and like the quality of the actual JavaScript code that is putting the frames on the screen is not amazing right now as far as I can tell, so some of the problems are related to that not being great. Like you might have different luck in different browsers or different computers because some of it is maybe related to like CPU and memory, which is unfortunate, but that's something I want to look into also. And then I've also been trying to actually put the backlog of, let's see, go to the public profile, put the backlog of live streams on here. And these are also in kind of random order, and you can't even really tell when these were broadcast because they don't have that metadata, but that'll be there eventually. I'll have a script fix these up. And this has really been testing PeerTube's ability to deal with long videos. It handles them just fine, but startup is a little bit slow. And that's something else that I'd like to try to contribute a fix for. I mean, more noticeable, the longer the video is and the slower the network connection is, because it needs to download an amount of data to start up the video, which scales depending on the length of the video. So yeah, a bit disorganized, but fun. I've got this entire Robot Odyssey playthrough on here. This will take a sec to start because it's a 12-hour video. Yeah, there might be ways to have, I don't know, like I think the best option for this is probably just to encode a different version of the video, which is just like the first minute or something, and just to have that be like a fast load additional transcode that you can opt into. Kind of like right now in the administrator UI, you can opt into all these additional resolutions you offer. So maybe there's an optional like fast start transcode. I don't know. That's a bad name because that's already what it's called when you put the move atom, which is this index of where things are in the MP4 file. That's already what it's called when you put it at the beginning of the file rather than at the end. But it's like what I want is to be even faster by being not so giant, not just at the beginning of the file. So, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I think I've gone through all the important points. There's multiple instances. You can see videos across instances. Like if I go to one of these instances, especially a video, or especially an instance that's following like everybody. So if I sorted this, oh, this server just recently went down. Yeah, this health doesn't seem to update very frequently. But these are some of the big servers. I've got an account on this one, and I posted a couple things here. And then this seems to be one of the bigger ones, PeerTube Mastodon host. And so yeah, you could just like search whatever. The search is also not very good on here. I don't think it does a full text search of the description, which is frustrating. So I'm gonna need to kind of rethink the way I do metadata on some of these videos. But yeah, you can find at least some of my stuff using keyword search and then like click to get to this account as viewed by this server, for example, which is kind of cool. A couple of cat videos. So yeah, I mean, server seems like it's doing all right. It's got a really big backlog of transcodes right now, and then I need to do some maintenance both on the hardware and the software. But yeah, after all that, like I'd love to start giving some accounts to friends and see if it stands up to that level of scrutiny, and then maybe open it a little bit wider. So that could be fun. This cat's great. Good to have a place for a lot of cat video to hang out. All right, let's try to make some progress on this CAD. Yeah, developer instance here is chugging. I wonder if I can load that actually. This is running in a Linux VM, and I think I've got an SSH forward set up still to go from this port outside the VM to this port inside the VM. I think that's true. Yeah. So I don't know if right now is the right time to work on this because this machine is still busy transcoding, and I'd like to get some bug reproducibility actually set up here. You know, some tests we can try to unbreak, that kind of thing. But yeah, this is something I'd like to do on a future stream, is really dig into some development on this maybe. Yeah, Daniel says you could split the video file into chunks, so that fast start would also apply for skipping to different points in the video. Yeah, that's what HLS or HTTP live streaming does. And yeah, I don't know why they didn't choose that approach in PeerTube. Like, I think it was useful to have like a single torrent that represented the entire thing. But like, yeah, I could see maybe a variant of this where instead of a torrent for an MP4 file, it's a torrent for like an M3U8 file in a directory of MP4 files. Yeah, and I mean that would be a thing that you could do if one were redesigning the entirety of PeerTube. That is not really a thing that I can do as a person patching PeerTube necessarily, but there might be ways we can work around that. Wake up. Yes, I guess we knew from the power graphs that this machine went to sleep. Wake up. I don't know if it wants to wake up from this keyboard. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go wake up this computer. Ears. Kind of looks like ears, right? Yeah, so this was kind of a mock-up from the end of the last stream. So that purple piece is already on the ceiling. I don't want to reprint it. It's just here so that I can design something that interfaces with the existing piece. And then the pulleys are more just here as models, because I probably am going to be printing new pieces there. So I can modify whatever, but I'm thinking I don't need to change anything that is already doing its job, so like I might leave kind of the exterior parts of this somewhat as is and design a way for this to clamp on to that. Yeah, I'm still thinking about the about that PeerTube problem. Now I'm wondering, like, oh, could you design a change to the client that downloads a partial move atom without changing anything about the transcode or the server? This might be, I might have just nerd sniped myself into learning more about H.264 and the container formats. Because I'm wondering if you could download something partial, fill it in a way that the player doesn't mind. Like, I still need to learn more about how Video.js works, which is the player infrastructure this is using. is I think there's some kind of middleware layer which is specific to WebTorrent that goes between like the HTML5 video player and the data source. I don't know that for sure though. I'm really curious how that's set up. But I think that's implemented in JavaScript as part of WebTorrent, and I think that source code I really need to read. So these like cylinder things are also kind of mock-up objects. Like they just exist to kind of show roughly where stuff is going to be. So this is the leash hanging straight down, going to the equipment, the streaming computer. This is the counterweight going straight down, probably to another pulley and then coming back up. That's not really done yet. And then on this side, these two are going to the flyer bot. So they'll be going at some kind of weird angle that's always changing. I didn't really have entirely like a bolt strategy in mind when I designed this. I'm kind of wishing I left a flat on here instead of this weird like curvy side. It's not that big of a deal because I've got a 3D printer, but it's like slightly annoying compared to what it could have been. I haven't positioned this thing totally symmetrically because I'm bad at just like dragging these into the right places, but this device here is totally symmetric. You know, I mean, it's got like a mirror plane of symmetry this way. I think I just want to make something that interfaces with these two holes. So I might want to make a sketch, do some projections of these holes, maybe this. I think I want to position the pulley first with the join though, so I can project the pulley itself. I should clean up my object hierarchy here, clean up my object tree. So these are all my like rope-like things. I think I'm just going to delete them. I was going to maybe clean them up and put them elsewhere, but I think I'm actually just not, I don't need to keep them. I have, what is this axis? I don't need that either. Plane, nope. Okay, so this is the whole ceiling anchor piece that I imported. I think we can just kind of keep it as is. These links mean that they're references to an external file. I don't think I want that. I think I actually want this data embedded, because I've just had no end of trouble with Fusion360 trying to embed other files, and it just seems like they don't really try to have that feature work very well. So I'm going to try not relying on that. So I broke that link. Let's break. I might break the link on one of these and then just throw away the other one, because I'm going to assume that I want to make something that is symmetrical that I can use on either side. I just want to design one thing and print two of them, so I'm just going to delete the second copy. Alright, so what else is in my timeline? There's a sketch, which I also don't want. There's a position. I don't know that I want the position either. I kind of want to break this pulley apart. figure out, like, I think I want to separate the enclosure from the center bits and then just like join all the center bits together into one component. Great if these had names. There, what is the UI for name? Just clicking at exactly the right speed is the UI for renaming. So like M3 nut was the library part. Like I think I imported that from McMaster, but like the rest of these are 3D printed bits. And there's a bolt that I imported down there. I don't know why some of these are open. That could be a problem. I think this icon means it is not an enclosed body. I'll deal with that in a sec. Oh, I forget how long these are supposed to be. $35. Clicking at exactly the right speed. Okay, and then some of these are actually components. That's interesting. So what kind of object is this? One thing that often frustrates me with Fusion360 is how opaque the UI seems to me. Like there's often a like, hover the mouse on just the right part of the screen for just the right amount of time, and then click at the right rate with the right button, and then you just have to know these things to use the program. These are not the properties I care about, sorry. These are useful. I just want to know what kind of object this is. Alright, whatever. Making these into components, and then I'm going to group them together. I want everything except the enclosure. I'm kind of lukewarm about keeping these bolts too, but we'll see. Yeah, I think I might want to redo the bolts too. Yeah, I mean, maybe I keep this stuff as kind of a reference. That's not extremely what I wanted, but okay. I want to make new components under here, I think. Or maybe... let's actually just delete these bolts. I don't think I'm going to use these. I'm going to re-import new bolts when I add bolts. I think I'm gonna leave the M6x40 in there, but I might remove that. We'll see. I'm gonna try to keep like the center stuff together and redo the stuff outside. You can see this is not like great mechanical design, but it's been pretty smooth. I've been pretty happy with this pulley design. Like using a bolt as a shaft, I'm doing that a lot in this project. It's not great, but it's been working out all right. Alright, so I think I'm gonna use this as just like a black box component. I'm gonna keep this other stuff available, but kind of ignore it for a moment. And then I think I want to try to set up some constraints between these two parts. I think I want to go inside this. This isn't the active component, right? Let's make this the active component and put like a temporary plane in here. I need like a surface that'll represent where on this pulley the monofilament is actually sitting. So this is some of the stuff I deleted some of this stuff earlier in the stream because I had started to add it, but it was like outside the component and it wasn't really set up the way I wanted. Gosh, now I want this to be longer. Oh, jeez. Oh, yeah, that little dot. No, not that thing. I feel like it's 2018. I don't even understand when people make jokes at the expense of like, you know, software quality at X big company or whatever. It's like, all those big companies are A, large enough that I'm sure the stereotypes that some of you had in the 90s don't apply anymore, and B, problematic for completely different reasons nowadays. So like, I don't even get it. This is in reference to a YouTube comment that was not on the getter, in case folks are wondering. I'm not gonna keep this place nice for the trolls, right? I'm gonna keep it nice for folks who are not trolls. Whatever that looks like. People who like to be nice to each other about stuff like that. People who don't create hierarchies around their software opinions, I guess, is the specific thing I'm going after. I think that line is all I want, or that plane is all I wanted. Let's go back to this. Okay, now I'm making a joint. I forget what order these go in. I think I want this to be first. Can I not use the construction? Oh, I think I can. Oh, I've got to select... See, it says select component, but I think I'm actually selecting a part of the component to join to. So, let's try simplifying this a little. See, I've got this little selection puck thing, but it's not giving me a selection for the construction plane here, so maybe that actually doesn't work. Sure seems like you should be able to have a joint against a construction object, but maybe planes don't work. I don't think I have a flat surf. Could I use this? Maybe I could use that. Oh, that's such a hack. But maybe I'll just use this because it's at the right angle and it's the right kind of object. Yeah, let's delete these last couple of steps. So, like that. I mean, like this is really the surface I want, but like I can't just grab something that has no corners. I think this is the closest to what I want, and I can just adjust it relative to that point. I don't think that's the exact center, actually. Because these... I don't think these two edges are in exactly the same spot. I think there's a little bit of clearance. Can I grab the bottom of this? It's the wrong orientation, I think. It might work. I could just stop obsessing over this quite so much. How close are these? Maybe these are actually the same line. Maybe I didn't leave any clearance and maybe that actually worked out. Alright, let's just do that then. Now I can adjust these two relative to those anchors. So I want to make sure that the monofilament actually runs with enough clearance relative to the top of this assembly. It doesn't need that much clearance. Like, it needs enough that it doesn't get tangled in anything. It needs not so much that it doesn't get tangled in anything. So that's what, like 5 millimeters? Yeah. Alright, so I can't move it any further down, really. I can move it further up if I wanted to, but like, the goal is to have this clear the top of the purple piece. So then I can move it that way as far as I want to make it easy to mount and to have it stay out of the way of the leash wire. So on the side of this that heads toward the robot, I deleted the temporary lines that we were using, but one of these comes out here, one comes out up here, and they both kind of follow each other. That should be fine. On the other side, the line's coming over the top here, down to the counterweight, around a pulley, and then back up. So for that, I actually want like a tie-off point over here that just overall doesn't get in the way. And so this will actually probably bow outward a little bit and then go around a wider pulley and then kind of sit right around here. I'm gonna have to model the pulley for the bottom side, maybe. Actually, that can be the same kind of pulley I'm using up at the top. So yeah, the pulley I use at the bottom will just be that same kind of generic like paracord to pulley adapter block thing. In fact, it'll probably be the literal exact one that's up at the ceiling right now. I'll probably just take that one, put it at the bottom, use it for the sandbag, and then print 2 new ones that go at the top. So I think it can be relatively close, and being close means it'll be easier for it to be strong. Like, one way this could go down is I could use, I think M6 bolts will fit in here. I'll have to check the diameter of these holes again. But yeah, either M6s or M4s should fit through these. And then I would need to either 3D print a spacer to go in between these or have that be part of the enclosure. But basically just have it go through those holes and clamp down from the outside. Yeah, I think fasteners are probably next, so let's actually pick a location for this and then pick some fasteners. I think I liked 135. Okay. This was not actually connected to that. Huh. I think I need to make a rigid assembly out of all these. Let's try fast forwarding back to the joint. Yeah, that worked. Just noticing a blip on the bandwidth chart that is maybe worth taking a closer look at. Oh yeah. That's cool. Like 300 something megabits. I don't have a good way just from this graph to tell whether something was backups or streaming at this point. One clue though is that the timestamps match when I have the cron job set for, so this big one might have been backup. It's nice to know that this is not saturating the entire link now, only about half of it. That's cool. And then here's some streaming, probably. And this is some internal. The big one down here is internal traffic, and then this is something smaller. A net flow collector. Yeah, I could certainly add more instrumentation. I get a bit of instrumentation from the router, but I don't have all of that integrated into Grafana yet. Oh, Daniel, are you a developer at Microsoft? I'm sorry. Is it actually different, you know, I don't know, like, is the part of it that you're in kind of still frustrating? It's unfortunate. I get the impression that these big companies just are so big now that like they're kind of harder to make generalizations about, except in the ways that they like affect people outside. This thing is annoying. I don't think I really need to fix it, but it's annoying. It's like this extra surface that shouldn't exist, but I think is a property of an importer bug. I think if I delete it, there'll be a hole. I think I'm just gonna leave it alone. Yeah, so I think we can put M6 bolts in here. What do I have handy? I think I'm gonna have to get some more M6x40s. I'm low on M6x40s. I have 3. I kind of wish I had 4. I think I need more than 3 actually, because I think the bolts in the the bolt in the middle of the pulley is an M3 or an M6x40 also. I think I just need to get more M6x40s. Probably just design this to use more of those. I kind of want to duplicate these. Nope. Just attaching those. That's really not optimal. Like, I don't think I'm gonna get much strength out of a pretty thin piece like that. So like one way to do it is to just put the nut like directly on this side and have the pulley attached entirely via the inside. Which might be the way to do it. I'd also put these bolts further apart. Oh yeah, these pulleys don't even need to be enclosed, really. Like, I don't need this to go fully around the pulley. Don't see any reason. This could just be a little triangular piece on each side. Use something longer than M6x40. But I still need that middle part. I don't know that it really helps me that much. I don't know, man. I think we should try doing this from the middle. Make something that just kind of clamps in there. You can put it on after the leash is already wired through here. I don't think it'll take up space that the leash needs. Could weigh that against, like one possibility would be bolt here, bolt here, bolt here, forms a triangle. Another possibility would be bolt here, bolt there, forms a triangle. Which leaves more room for the leash to kind of move around up here. I don't know that it needs that though, looking at the angles. Could use here, here, and here maybe. That might be even better. Just thinking about how to make this printable too though. Like which side would be flat against the printer. So over here you've got this thing that you really wish was flat. Like I could make this flat if I reprinted it. Yeah, I don't know, like that curve serves a purpose. Like I didn't make it non-flat for no reason, but I could have added a circle there that was flat. Like even something that comes up instead of down here would be useful. So yeah, like if for example this had to be the surface that was against the top of the model as I was printing it, maybe the bottom of the model is at the top of the screen that we're seeing right now. So like 3D printer orientation would be like this. But then where would that bottom go? It kind of has to go above this unless you're going to print a big like support structure where this pulley goes. So that's not great. You can print it sideways maybe. I like that better. That's maybe the way to go. Then you can just have the width be exactly what you want everywhere around. And it needs a flat edge maybe right here, which seems fine. Or, you know, the other side. So like this could be an edge, and then it builds up this, this, and that. How is that for layer strength? Like, as far as that relies a lot on the layer lamination strength to hold the object together. Like it's better to print it with this as the flat axis for strength. How much space do I have there? That's not the measurement I wanted. It's like almost 7 millimeters, and then I don't know. Then again, the surface can be pretty like large along that triangle. Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be that thick. I'd like it to be. I could use a thinner pulley. I don't have to use the same pulleys here. I just like this pulley, but I could make the pulley different. I've used a bunch of these pulleys now. So this is kind of a Y-shaped piece, right? Like, I'm trying to have something that is strong around the middle of this bolt, sort of, and then two edges here, so kind of like that. And so really I want, like, I guess that could be, yeah, like that print orientation is not terrible. I think I'm just gonna go for it. Print it out of something pretty strong, but it's also like, I don't know. I guess worst case, this thing fails and a pulley falls from the ceiling, which is not great, but it's not that heavy either. That is one advantage of the previous design, is that I had a paracord running through the entire setup to act as a safety. It might be nice to preserve that characteristic. I'm not that worried though, like, it's a light pulley. It'll fall at the very edge of the room. I think I like that. Let's adjust these joints. So I'm not going to bother making this exact, because it doesn't need to be, but right about there. This is a flat surface. Oh, actually that is a flat. I was thinking I'm not going to make it exact because it's a curved surface, but why am I clamping a bolt down on a curved surface? No, actually, it's flat, and I can use the join tool to make that exact. I just need to select the hole instead of the bolt. And there we go. So it'll look like that. There's room. I could use a washer on this side if I wanted to. Might be good to order some washers while I'm at it. Mighty fine looking pulley. Yeah. Well, one thing that I like about this pulley is that it's printed in one piece. Like, I carefully optimized this to be the steepest overhang I could manage on my Delta printer. Oh, Tuco is napping something fierce over here. Let's see if I can get the camera a little closer. Wake up. Soft boy. Gosh, feel so lucky to share this place with such a good soft boy. Oh yeah, Lars said they assumed the pulley was mirrored two-piece. Yeah, I tried making two-piece pulleys. I didn't want the cord to have to like run on a, like I didn't want there to be a defect right in the middle of the pulley, and it was also kind of a tough place to glue. The glue I used, like it's kind of a stress concentration, so yeah, like I was like super gluing PLA together and not having a good time of it. Probably could have done better with epoxy, but not, you know, it still wouldn't have been great. PLA is kind of annoying to glue, in my experience. It's like not too hard to make it hold somewhat, but making it hold really strong can be hard. Like I've had good luck with super glue occasionally, but I've also had a really bad time with super glue. It's just not holding as much as I expect it to. I think super gluing together the two sides of a print that were against the build plate can work, because those sides are so flat. But otherwise, it can be hard to super glue 3D printed stuff because you don't have flat surfaces to work with, really. Unless they're sanded or something. Yeah, I've tried doing, like I made a version of the spool for my winches that was two-piece and it's super glued together in the middle. And I tried to have like this overlapping angled joint that gave the glue a lot of surface area, and it didn't hold worth anything. It was just terrible. The current spools are multi-piece, but they're held together with a big 8mm bolt, which seems to be doing all right. Oh yeah, they're also hammered together. Like I designed this really intense hammered together fit for the sprocket that drives the spool and the main spool body. And yeah, they hammer together with a mallet, don't come apart at all. So yeah, there's that approach. Such a cat. Yeah, I could just pet this dude all day. He would love that. He's so into the attention. When I'm trying to get any work done, he will often just meow every couple of seconds if I'm not paying attention to him. And he just wants to be close by. Oh yeah. I guess I switched too soon. Should have stayed here. Yeah, not all the archives are up, but if you're into surfing stream archives and you want to test out the new infrastructure, then a lot of them are up on Diode Zone now. They've been sort of uploading from the oldest to more recent, but not quite, because I had some like upload restarts and some weirdness going on. So yeah, they're a little bit weirdly organized right now, but I'll fix the metadata at some point. Oh hey, welcome. Yes, still streaming. Camera's doing an alright job of following him. Waking up to hear the train. Oh, you are purring? Are there birds? He might just be purring because there's a good sunset. Oh yeah. Some good licks. Yeah, I love you too, boy. Oh, he's such a little purr beast. Cool. I think I'm gonna move this bolt down to this slot and then make a copy. Right, I guess the bolt and the nut aren't actually connected to each other right now. They're just each connected to this. That's fine. Copy, paste. Let's just move it somewhere to get it out of the way. More joints. Ah, for a good time, add more joints. Put the space mouse closer to the keyboard. I feel like I keep moving my hand like a foot. I also need to get more used to using the modifier keys on the side of the space mouse, because those actually do help. I'm just still bad at them. I went through a lot of keyboard retraining effort recently to get to know this new ergonomic keyboard, and I'm finally mostly pretty used to it, but it was a lot of work. I feel like this might be a similar set of like muscle memory retraining pains. Learning to use the modifiers there instead of on the keyboard and moving my hand all over. Okay, so that's maybe more what I want, like this collection of bolts. And I think maybe this is the build axis. So that these two have a really strong connection. And then this is kind of more like angled, like a cantilever situation. I can also see doing it this way, but I think I want this to be the strong point. So I think more like that. And then this can be a whole big triangle if I want it to be. Oh yeah, the animate into place is weird. That really weirded me out when I started using joint assemblies in Fusion. It's very odd. Fedora is asking if there's a typo in the description. Where are you seeing that? In general, when somebody's pointing a thing out, I always appreciate context. There it is, thank you. I don't know whether that was my typo or a cat walking across. I appreciate that. I just sometimes wish you'd be more specific, but it's all cool. Did we just have a stream hiccup? I don't know whether we're actually experiencing an interruption or whether my connection to the client here is just... the YouTube client is just interrupted. I think we're still online here. I have so much trouble multitasking on these streams. Why can't we save? Is there a modal on a different monitor? Oh wait, is it normal for save to be grayed out if you haven't made any changes? Oh, I guess it is. Okay, never mind. That was weirding me out. I've had trouble a lot with Adobe Premiere popping up modal dialog boxes, places where I can't see them, and I thought maybe that was happening here too. But nope. Okay, what does the rest of this look like? I don't know if I actually want to keep these pieces, but I might kind of use them as reference for some of the dimensions that have worked as far as interfacing with the pulley itself. Like you can kind of see the constraints that I used to design this piece at first. Like, you know, I want this amount of clearance between the edge of the pulley and the enclosure. I want this amount of clearance between the face and this face of the enclosure. I want this to be grabbing just like the very center of that bearing. Provide enough room there that hopefully the printer tolerances still allow that to line up correctly. I was thinking about building this up kind of the way the printer is going to see it from one edge, but I think I kind of want this to be built a little bit more like the original piece, as like a solid thing that I'm slicing apart. Yeah, so let's actually just start right here. Looks really similar to the bearing. But I do think I just want to project the other side. That's 1 millimeter. That's 2.5 millimeters. Maybe be useful just to define like a keep out region, and then I could kind of follow along the edge of that for some of this geometry. think I could put that on the same sketch if I wanted to. Train. So I can extrude on both sides. So up will be the clearance between that side of the bearing and the wall that I want to leave kind of free between the pulley and the enclosure. So that was 2.5 millimeters. Let me just pick this. It's the corresponding thing on the other side. Okay, so this is the object that represents the space we want to leave free for the pulley. And the mount will kind of overlap with that in the very middle. Pulley circles. Yeah. What other constraints do I want to give myself? I probably want this thing to run along the edge of sort of an arc that corresponds with, you know, like a way for these two bolts to connect to each other while staying maximally clear of the leash area down here. Because I really don't want to obstruct that any more than I have to. Like, this is already going to be a little bit tight. So let's just worry about the, what are my axes here? The XY plane here. Let's not worry about Z, which is along the bolt. I'm just going to stick a plane or a sketch on XY origin plane. Project some stuff. These bolts. What's it complaining about here? Oh, I don't think it likes projecting that screw thread. Alright. Can you project just this? And that. Just trying to group some of this stuff. Hardware here. curve in here is kind of weird. I think it's a combination of a line segment and an arc and a different arc. So it's like a spread out circle. But I think if we just look at this part here, I think that can be a circle. We find the center of this part here. I think I want to do this on the sketch, but yeah, something like that in 2D. Oh gosh, can I move that sketch definition? I wanted these to actually be cleaned up. These things where I moved the bolts into this hardware component. I can't move these all before the sketch somehow. Okay, let's do some timeline surgery here. Why can't I put these inside of hardware? I don't know what's up there. Maybe it's not letting me move that because it knows I'll break the link to this sketch. I'm just going to redo the sketch. Okay, I'm back at present day, present time. Gosh, I haven't watched that in a long time. I've still got a domain name named after that show. That's better. Alright, so that's a curve that I might want to base this connection on. These are the mounting bolts. That's the pulley central bolt. Yeah, Joseph's wondering if we're doing CAD today. Yeah, trying to do some CAD. Making a thing related to the Tuco Flyer project. It's a new pulley thing that I need on the ceiling. It'll make the Tuco Flyer movements less loud, because right now there's just some parts that are scraping together because the pulley is not designed well. So I'm making a better pulley. Let's go ahead and project this too. Maybe that's a more convenient curve to use. I don't know, this curve is weird. I forget exactly how I generated this curve. Does this have an offset tool? It does. So I want like a minimum thickness of material around this bolt hole. Well, so first of all, this is actually the diameter of the bolt itself. I should make the hole a little wider. I don't want it to be an extremely tight interference fit. So let's first offset it by like 1/2 millimeter or less. This doesn't need to be an extremely tight fit. Probably shouldn't be. Let's just offset it by a good 1/2 millimeter. Same with this one. And let's also get an offset that represents the material thickness plus that 1/2 millimeter. This is pretty tall, so I'm not going to worry about making it extremely burly, but 2 millimeters comes to mind. Maybe 2.5. Let's see what 3 from the center looks like. I think we have room for that. Can we offset this whole curve? So it's going to hit this one first. Excuse me. I don't know if I can set it up as a constraint. I might just set this to be a round number. Not really worry about having it be constraint driven, so 15 millimeters. Okay, since I'm driving that as the main constraint here, I'm actually going to unconstrain these with distance and instead make these touch. I can't make these tangent. I can create a tangent point. Maybe the solver doesn't know how to make 2 offsets tangent to each other. Let's just make this a regular circle. That works. Okay. And I can decide like how big I want this to be, like how much material do I want around the bolt head and the nut. I'm gonna just type in 30 for that unless I've got a better idea. here's our potential flat edge. Thinking about whether to remove or add material to make this flat. I think I want to add material. So that would mean maybe 2 more little circles over here. A line, bunch more constraints. Any more reports on how well diode zone is working or not working? I haven't heard any problems, which probably means that it's working alright for most people, but let me know if you're having problems. Or maybe people just haven't tested it much yet. I don't want these things to become too small. I've got to like keep the constraint solver from running too far amok before I have all the constraints in place. So I want to make this pretty small because this is just like, so I don't have an infinitely sharp corner there, but it's something I want to not really have to be a printability headache. Because if this was a large circle, you can imagine trying to slice it at one edge, moving up. At first, these angles would be very steep. If it's a small circle, you can kind of ignore the droop, or the printer can kind of print around it. But if it's a large circle, then you're definitely going to have an overhang problem. So let's make this little. 3 millimeters, maybe 2 millimeters. Alright, and I could kind of figure out where to put this. Like, how do I want to join the flat back into the bulk of this round part? I think I want to do that with another line. So I can actually set this angle based on what kind of overhang I actually want to deal with. That's more like it, 60 degrees. Okay, and then this, you know, could be a straight line. I could also make that another arc, just because that might be nice. Let's do an arc. Oh, those points were not in the order I thought they were going to be in. All right. kind of a shark fin shape or something. Oh, the sketch palette was a little off screen for those of you watching on the stream. The video recorder is seeing it, but that doesn't help you right now. Okay, do we have any degrees of freedom here? Yeah. I don't know if I want to add a specific constraint for that. I can make another construction line here and set an angle. So I could say this line and this are also going to be tangent, which does work even if they're only tangent at that one point. This will be a construction line. If I let it go straight, then something gets stuck in the solver and I can't curve it again. .60 degrees. That's better. Is there still unconstrained something going on? Where else? Where is the center of this arc? I got the impression the arc was fully constrained, but maybe not. It's probably as constrained as it needs to be for my purposes. Okay, some of these should be construction, maybe not. This one. This one. Marking construction lines makes it easier to not turn them into geometry in the next step. I could probably make this a tiny bit bigger. 3 millimeters. I could have just set those two equal. Oh well. That's fine. What if I just extrude this? I don't quite know where I'm going with the modeling here. Deciding whether or not I should aim to hit this below the top of this body and just like do some kind of Boolean operation on it, or whether I should go over and then do something else. I think I do actually want that to be thicker though. How big are those bolts? that big. And that seems kind of nice. I could even make it thicker, honestly. Let's start here and then remove some of that material. Let's definitely make room for the pulley now. I haven't done much Boolean stuff in Fusion360. I'm not sure if it's a good idea. I don't know that I wanted that tool to be hollow. Why does that tool have a hole in the middle? Go back and debug that slightly. Okay, that is not hollow anymore. Let's try that again. Okay, let's undo that. I was just trying to figure out what even happened there, but... that is clearly still hollow. Okay, what did I do wrong? Edit feature. Am I editing the right feature? Oh, maybe I was editing the wrong feature. Yeah, no, I added a hole to this piece instead of taking it off that piece. Oops, let me undo that. Not totally sure undo is the right tool for that job. Actually, this looks fine. Like, I did want that hole. Okay, maybe I'm just confusing myself. Let's leave that one alone. And go back to this one, which is clearly still not right. Oh, did I miss something? Oh, there's some... I see, there's like some duplicate lines here, so I ended up with some really tiny parts. Those should have been construction lines, whatever. Oh, that's much better. So that is a clearance hole for the 6mm screw and part of a thing that we'll use to build a bearing mount. You know, we also don't have to make this split in two pieces. It looks like this could be a single piece print, which could make it a lot stronger. That's cool. So like the major features, we need to add the, well, like the other side's copy of this, and then extend it down and chamfer the edges. Make room for the actual nut and bolt head. All the nuts and bolt heads. I think we just want to cut this whole section out though. Maybe that's the next step. Gosh, I kind of want a version of this without the holes. Can I fill the holes? Oh, I don't know if I can fill the holes when I do the extrude. I'm just gonna try something like that. It'll leave some little mountains behind that I don't actually want. So I think I actually want a sketch where I take some of those outlines, but not all of them. Actually, I think I can just make a new sketch, and then that already lets me pick stuff. Oh, did that just project something new? Okay. So easy to accidentally select stuff I don't want to select. I'm less used to the multi-selection in this than some other CAD tools. Dude goes awake. How's your nap, little friend? And like that. And like that. We'll whittle this down some more, don't worry. Sketchy McSketch Pants. That's what I would call this sketch if I was less lazy. Oh hey, Game of Knowing on YouTube. Nice to see you. Let's make multiple of these edges less bad. Alright, I wonder how bad it would be if I just started with a Boolean of this shape out. I'll have to clean it up some, but maybe that's not the worst starting point. That went remarkably well. I'm used to having to pray to the Boolean onion every time I do this in Rhino. I mean, it left some open pieces. Oh, actually, that's not a Boolean issue. That's literally the shape we wanted there. I don't know if we want to print something that's literally trying to shim itself in between the screw and the bolt hole, though, so we might want to trim this, like, trim off the cylindrical part and then round that a bit more. Kind of want to just solve this with Booleans by extending this surface, like patching the holes in this surface and then cutting with it. Can I do that here? I kind of know how to do that in Rhino. I've never done that in Fusion360 before. Yeah, the Boolean onion. I need to make a shirt about the Boolean onion. Although I have to speak of them so much less now that I'm not using Rhino so much. Okay, and there's a bunch of other stuff I could do here, but I want to tackle the most annoying parts of this first. Parts that are most likely to have to cause me to restart everything. So I want to see if I can extract this. I think this is not the right kind of object for that yet. Like in Rhino, I would take this object and break it apart into surfaces and then extend, like remove the holes in this surface. I think that's possible in this program. Oh, is this just going to break apart the whole thing? I think I want to make a duplicate copy, but what does this do? Yeah, okay. Like, I want to rescue this object from there, but I don't want to actually break the entire thing. Let's name this something useful, like pulley mount. This is also missing another important feature, which is a place for the cord to return on the back pulley, the one that's acting as a counter or a compound pulley. But one thing at a time. So I made a copy, broke apart the copy into all these other pieces, and I want to throw away most of these pieces. I want to keep this one and this one. Possibly others. I mean, it'd be nice to not have to decide right now. These are really annoying, though. let's just temporarily delete these. I don't think I'm going to need them. I can always come back for them. Whoa. Oh, right, delete actually deletes the operation that created them. I have to use remove. Since I don't actually want to delete them from the history, I just want to actually remove them from the world at the moment in the timeline. So I've got that. Here's the other side. That's 46. These holes. I don't think that's the way you're supposed to patch holes. Does that actually work? It is not obvious that I've created a monstrosity here. That might be how you patch holes in this program. That's cool. Let's just do, can we do all the extends at once? I don't want to have to do these piecemeal. I think I do actually want to extend all the edges. Really hard to see what is selected there. Does this not work? Huh. Cool. So I'm extrapolating past the end of the original, I guess, NURBS surface or whatever this is defined with. This doesn't look good, does it? This looks like I've created a geometry monster. I don't know how to deal with geometry monsters in this program, but I'm gonna try. I actually don't know if I need to deal with that particular part. Where does that sit? I don't actually need that part. Okay. I don't know if this is good, right? Like, this could be doing something terrible to the model, creating all sorts of overlapping vertices, but it might actually be doing the right thing. Kind of hard to tell at the level of abstraction you get here. Maybe these little things too. Extrapolating NURBS. It's like reticulating splines, but more real. Okay, so I think I actually want, what do I want? Do I actually want this curve? Because I think I might need to extend this curve to cut that one against. Let's go back before all the removals. So I can see which pieces these were, and maybe which removals they were. Maybe. I was hoping one of these removals would be highlighted. Am I gonna have to binary search this? I want to keep 57 and 62. I can read them one by one. Deleting the removal for 62. 57. Okay, I think we're wound back to the present in the timeline, and now we have these pieces that we wanted. I don't know why I'm saying me, we. Maybe, like, I'm inviting participation. Maybe I'm talking about me and the solid modeler. Maybe me and Tuco. Kind of hard to tell. Okay, I think I need to extend these edges long enough I can actually use this to cut the entire thing. I'm still making a lot of assumptions about how this modeler works, but let's see if this works. These are bodies. Oh, it'll automatically extend the slitting tool. That's cool. Didn't realize I would. Oh, did that not do what I wanted? Oh, that failed. This is offset. Can I extrude something that's not flat? No. I mean, that's fine. If anything, I would want to just like build this up toward a solid plane. So maybe I'm like projecting this into a cylinder would be handy. Why does the help text disappear immediately? It's not very helpful. I'm not touching anything. It just disappears. Oh, thicken. Oh, I think that's the tool I wanted. Oh yeah, I think thickening all these things and then booleaning them might actually do the trick. 7mm seems fine. So we're going away from the center of the structure. It's interesting, it was failing for some of the smaller values, working for the larger ones. Okay. I think I can use split body on these now, actually. No, still failed. I think I could turn this into a 2D operation, which might be easier. So let's sketch on this XY plane. Project. Actually, where was I trying to cut this? Maybe I already have that on a sketch. Yeah, I think actually I just want these surfaces. Delete them, but I can remove them. Okay. Okay, I want to make a enclosed shape here that I can actually union with stuff. Or intersect. Excuse me. why can't I extend this? Not quite sure why I can't extend that, but I'll figure something out. I think I just should have projected this also, and then if I project all that, then the rest of how I finish this can be extremely arbitrary. Okay, something like that. This is all arbitrary. New body. Okay, so I want to use this as a tool to kind of refine. Gosh, where did it go? This whole document is super disorganized right now. These things, I should give them actual names. I was about to do some booleans, but yeah, these things, body 79 and body 80, I've finally created this shape that I want to use to patch the holes in this other piece, but I need to keep it from chopping into this area. So let's see if I can actually do that. So I think we want to take 79 and 80 and subtract 81 from them. Model workspace. Oh, do I have to do these one at a time? That's fine. Oh man, it's really nice how fast booleans are in this program, at least. There's a lot of stuff I like about Rhino, but booleans are really slow in Rhino. Okay, let's rename this. Flatteners. Why not? Can these boolean now? I think that's finally what I was looking for. Oh yeah. So it matches the curvature of that initial shape we had, but it leaves off all the sticky out bits, just having the curve. It's exactly what I wanted. I don't know about this. I think that should have gone down a little further. I'm getting lazy about the quality of this modeling, and I might just cover this up with another fillet. Oh, can't add that one. Let's cut these at least. That works. Okay, so print orientation is like this. We've got space for 2 M6 bolts. this weird slopey thing that'll fit. Where is it? Let's turn some of this stuff on. I've actually got 3D models for this. So, leash anchor. So the leash will fit through here. This will hopefully not be too in the way. It's not as, obviously not in the way as I would like, but I think there's enough room. This cable is actually pretty small, so I think that's actually plenty of room. We could put another bolt through here, but I don't think I want to bother. This is also a slightly smaller hole, so I don't think we can put an M6 in there. Oh, yeah, we could put an M6 in there. Oh yeah, that's right, that is one of the holes I was initially looking at for this, but I think that would be overkill. I don't think we need that. Rather just have the continuous plastic there and then a bolt way over here. Oh yeah, that can be fillet. And this. This should be a small fillet because this is more structural. And also printability because this is the flat side. And rounding this a little bit might make it have less stress concentration, more likely to handle the load gracefully instead of breaking right there. I don't want this to be extremely large. I want this to be pretty subtle actually. It's definitely an ear. It is most definitely ears. I like ears. Especially when we have two of them, they will be very ears. So room for the M6. Well gee, this is looking almost done. We definitely need this section over here by the bearing mount. I get to finish this up and send it to the slicer. It's getting a little late. I don't know if I'll actually start the 3D print tonight, since they prefer to do the 3D printing when I can monitor it rather than like entirely overnight, you know? But let's at least get an STL file before we wrap up the stream. So I like that. I want basically exactly this, but on the other side. There are a lot of ways I could accomplish that. I think the easiest way I see right now is to do a sketch right here and then project that other shape. There's 1 millimeter. Hollow. Okay, that's the part that needs to be straight. Then I'm gonna have another part, which I could have done this all as one extrude really, but I wanted this next part to be kind of a marker for where the fillet goes. I think I've done this in the past with other tools, but extrude and chamfer seems to be the easy way to go. Do I want to let it join? Yeah, I think I do want to let that join. Yeah, it doesn't even leave a line between those extrudes. All right. Could have done that differently. Yeah. Let's just do that, 1.25. This isn't exactly what I used before, but I kind of like this better. I'm gonna have to make a real spot for the bolt heads at some point. This is a little bit temporary. Okay, now this is all one body. It'd be cool to look at the cross section here to see how much material we've actually got. Let's do that really quick. Ooh, that's pretty thin. That's a problem. I mean, an easy fix for that would be to increase this radius. I think we have enough room for that. Oh, there's plenty of room for that. Yeah, let's just increase this radius. It'd be good to do this with the section view up, wouldn't it? Let's try that. Oh, that's much better. I think we've got enough clearance there. So this section will be reasonably strong. Like the weakest point is going to be right in here, but it's also got all this other material holding it together above and below the weak point. More below than above in this orientation, but yeah. Yeah, it does kind of look like the Nekomimi hat, or headband, yeah. It's pretty fun. Okay. So, bolt. You can see the spacer in between the two bearings in this view. So yeah. I think this is me giving myself a lot more clearance in the bolt holes today than I did last time I designed this. Tuco's wandered off. Yeah, I don't know. It might actually just be a good time to wrap this up. I don't know if I'm going to get this printable like right now, and I'd rather do this right than like rush for no reason, because there's really no reason for me to rush at it right now. Turn that on and off easily. Yeah. Alright, this is also something I've often... Okay, so there's two things I need to do. I need to fix this, like, weird step on the edge here. I don't even know that it's a problem, honestly, because I kind of like having it come in a little bit where this is really light on material to support the bearing otherwise. But having most of the screw opening be a little bit looser is not bad. So I might actually just chamfer that. This is pretty ugly, isn't it? I'm trying to like measure an intersection between this section plane and this, and I don't think it works that way. Oh, fine. What is the smaller clearance I picked here? Well, that's 6.5. Did I really use a diameter bigger than 6.5 here? Thanks, past me. That was 7 for some reason. Yeah, let's just do 6.5. I'm just gonna extrude this to the bottom of the bolt. Actually, I'm gonna extrude it all the way up here just to make that step go away. Like that. Okay, now this side is easy. It'll just be a circle. So project this, outline it, or offset it. I always make this part too tight. .6 seems like plenty though. Select all that, do some cutting this out. Alright, there's a place for the bolt head. Now I just need a place for the nut. This is going to be one of those moments when it actually matters how large my M6 nuts are. So I think at some point I had 2 different diameters, and that started really screwing me up. I need to reorder M6 stuff anyway, so. I just need to measure what I've actually got here. .85. Oh, this is actually larger than the nut that I have. Really? That says 10. Is that exactly 10? And that's a good number. Is this actually the right piece of hardware? Yeah, I mean, I guess 9.8 is really similar to 10, but I was expecting it to be 10. Alright. But if I make this... If I made the actual diameter like 10.2, it's not going to be too loose, even if the actual nut is 9.8, so let's do that. I can't do outside inset here. Oh, I guess I can. Just not by typing a negative number. Okay. Okay, just need to pick the right point for this to go. Oh gosh, there's so much stuff in here. I feel like so much of CAD is just selecting piles of objects that are all on top of each other. Alright. This color is dull. It shouldn't be gray. I don't know what color I'm going to 3D print it, but let's... Here's one that I had handy. It's like a blue. Having it be like kind of a lighter, like whitish or blue color might be nice, like for the kind of cat ear aesthetic. I don't know. A lot of colors could go well with purple. I've been printing all the pulleys in red just as a matter of, I don't know, like I thought it kind of made sense if the moving parts were mostly bright red. That's kind of where that came from. I'm gonna call this the pulley ear. Okay, so here's the printing platform. So it starts up flat. We've got snug interface against those two surfaces. Also snug against that surface. I don't think that'll be over constraining it because there's a bit of slack between this screw and the hole, so I think we'll be fine on that front. can save some material and make this look nicer if we add some fillets along these long edges, I think. See, like this kind of preserves that shape we're looking for, but does so with less material. How did I break it? There's a limited range of sizes that actually work here. Seven millimeters works, let's stick with that. And maybe a smaller one on this side. Cute. Now it's starting to look like cyborg ears. Can we go to 3? No, 2 is all I get here. That's fine. Okay, that does make the printing base a little small. That might be alright. I'm a little worried about that, but I think I'm gonna try it. Because we've got all this stuff on the print, on the build plate right away. And then this, and then it like, yeah, it just builds up from there. This millimeter is gonna be a bit intense as far as millimeters go. But it might make sense just to cut that a little bit after the fillet, just to give it a bit more flat. Let's try that. Let's just cut 1 millimeter. Gosh, I don't like getting closer to that screw though. Let's just try changing this fillet. Yeah, I think that solves the problem, just making it a 5 millimeter fillet. Yeah, there's just more of a flat on both sides if we need it, but especially right here. Is it more illustrative to be building up from the bottom like this? So we'll open up these channels for the horizontal bolts. This is a weak point over here. We've got this little, well, 2 millimeter, I think, section that could just completely delayer and pop out, and then the whole pulley falls off, basically. That's Yeah, I don't know, like all of the layer bonding across this entire shape is holding that together. Like for the bolt to actually just pull out that way, you'd really just have to split the model along that bolt line, which could definitely happen, but it would require more failing than just this little piece of plastic. This stuff up here still seems thicker than it needs to be, but that's not really a big deal if I'm printing it with infill. Like the shell is going to be where I'm really focusing the plastic and the strength, so this can be relatively hollow and just exist as kind of a scaffold to, or like a triangular kind of strut structure to hold the pulley. And I still, speaking of things that I should do before printing this, haven't done anything to think about that lower anchor for the return line, because that might need to come up around here. Yeah, I think this is today's stopping point. This is good though, like it needs a little bit more work, but we've almost got a thing I can just print a couple of and then improve the leash situation for this quite a bit. And it looks kind of cute. And now I know which bolts to order, so. Yeah, and I've done plenty of long prints where I have to leave them overnight. It's just, I don't prefer to start prints and then just immediately leave them, because then, well, there's like safety concerns, but also like it's just a lot less likely to succeed if you can't watch it for the first little while. So, yeah, I don't recommend running printers, especially unattended. But if you have to like run them overnight, then it's best to do it not at the beginning of the print job. Like you can make sure that the printer is generally working all right, and that the risky parts are over with, hopefully. All right, well, thanks so much for joining. A special thanks to everyone who's sent in stuff to tear down, everyone who's shared this stream or the edited videos with their friends. Special thanks to everyone who's been testing out the new PeerTube server, and if you haven't seen it, if you go to diode.zone and try streaming some videos, let me know how well it works. And a special thanks to all my patrons, all of you whose monthly support on Patreon. That's how I can do this as like my day job these days. So yeah, it's really amazing, and I hope that I can, that I can continue creating the kind of content that you want to see, and that that I can make it worthwhile for all of you who are contributing. So yeah, let me know. I always appreciate hearing from you, whether it's on like YouTube comments or Twitter or Patreon, or these days I'm on Mastodon more than Twitter, but I still check Twitter sometimes. So yeah, I will see you on the internet, and yeah, happy hacking, folks. I don't know where Tuco ran off to. I would give him, oh, there he is. Maybe I'll give you a quick parting view of Tuco. Surveying the domain. And if you hadn't seen it, that's the experimental home for the PeerTube server right in front of him, but I've got a rack on its way, a little rack for the server. It was supposed to come today, but it was delayed, so I think tomorrow that's going to be in. Although I might actually wait to assemble stuff until the current round of transcodes finish, because I'd rather not have to kill any of those processes while they're still making progress. Alright, I'll see you folks next time. Happy hacking. And I'm going to try to do this a bit more regularly. I think the Tuesday, Thursday schedule I used to do was actually alright, so I've been trying to get closer to that. So, but yeah, I'll just try to do it opportunistically, but at least a couple times a week, assuming I can manage. So, I'll see you next time.